Okay, we'll begin. Uh, Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Amrut Kiran. I am a senior researcher at the Indian Institute for Human Settlements here. I work at the Geospatial Lab. I'm also part of the Let's Talk Spatial meetup group that is basically organizing monthly events here in the city, depending on themes and domains that we find recurring, in trending, something that folks might be interested in. And we have had, this is our 13th meetup, and we've been all across the city, and we try to network. The whole agenda being that we try to sort of bridge the gap between industry, academia, freelancers, regular researchers, and developers. Try to see where spatial in the city is heading. And Let's Talk Spatial is in collaboration with OSM Bangalore this time. So thank you, Vivek and Ruel, for coming in today. We also had previously a few events with OSM Bangalore, with mostly being like street mapping out in the field. But I thought this time on a Saturday, some of us might be lazy. So let's just do something in-house, learn some technical skills with our hosts here. But this event is also in sponsorship with IEEE GRSS Bangalore section. That is basically also one of the heads for geoscience and remote sensing in the city. IEEE GRSS has membership opportunities that you can look into. It really helps you sort of connect and network with a lot of people in the geoscience and remote sensing domain. So if you're ever looking to sort of see and expand your reach on how remote sensing, GIS, or regular cartography and geography, how that is sort of connected to your city, it could be under urban or rural domains, anything of that kind, especially with a lot of SDGs and climate change coming in. A lot of remote sensing is playing a really impactful role in all of this. So if you'd like to see where this is heading in the next few years or so, I would recommend you to join the IEEE GRSS Bangalore section. And yeah, so that's basically the gist of it. And so basically the workshop format, I think, will be explained a little bit more deeper from them, the workshop hosts. But usually the way that we do it is that we have a few sessions like this. And after the session is done, we sort of break for tea and coffee that is served on the back. Some administrative housekeeping stuff I like to share, that the washrooms are to your right over there, including gender inclusive washrooms as well. Water, tea, coffee, and snacks would be served. I mean, water is available all the time, but tea and coffee would be after 12:30ish at the cafeteria on the backside. If you have any questions on OpenStreetMaps related to, or anything with GIS and remote sensing, do reach out to us. We'll have a round of introduction, maybe like after an hour after you guys are done with some amount of work. Then we'll see how each of you are interested in your own domains. You can sort of network with us while we're here as well. But yeah, I think with that being said, and yeah, so we are also members, let's say, of the organizing committee for the India Geoscience and Remote Sensing Symposium that's coming up next month. I'll be talking a lot more about that after the workshop is done. So just to pique your interest on what that could be like, so do stay around for that. But yeah, the event is also being streamed on YouTube. So if you like to share the link with folks that couldn't come here, or somebody that might be interested in the work that you guys are doing, do share that across as well. But yeah, if there's anything else, I think I can just hand it over to the hosts, and maybe you can introduce yourselves in a line or two. The mic should work. Let's just see.
Hello, can you hear me?
You need to speak a little bit louder, or maybe
yeah,
if you're okay.
For this.
Yeah, so thanks, Amrut. And hello, everyone. Thank you for coming here on a Saturday morning. It's to see a good crowd interested in learning about OpenStreetMap or just GIS topics in general. So my name is Vivek. I've been an OpenStreetMap contributor and user for 7 years. I started in 2016 because a road near my house was not there on OpenStreetMap, and I wanted to fix it. And I've just been continuing to contribute and use OpenStreetMap for the past 7 years. So for today's session, basically, we'll be dividing it into 4 parts. The first part, I'll just be introducing OpenStreetMap and talking about how it came to start and what people do with it. And then we'll talk about a few applications. So there are lots of big companies and organizations that use OpenStreetMap. We'll go through them and give an overview of basically how different applications are built using OpenStreetMap. So once we get like a basic introduction of what OpenStreetMap is and how people use it, then we'll get into the hands-on section, which is where we'll be adding data and editing OpenStreetMap using a tool called ID. Then we'll have a break for like 20 minutes once we're done with that, and we'll come back for exporting and using the OpenStreetMap data. This is where you see actually how you can use it for your own personal projects your own personal interest. So anyone have any questions about the basic overview or anything? Okay, fine. So I have a few questions for you. So has anyone here not heard about OpenStreetMap until you saw the announcement? Okay, 2 people, fine. Then is anyone there who knows about OpenStreetMap but is not familiar with what it is about? You just heard the term, but you don't know what it is. Okay. Then none of the above, but you've not used OpenStreetMap before. You've heard about it and you know about it and you've not used it. Okay. And anyone who has used it but never edited OpenStreetMap. Okay, about half the group. And has anyone not made maps with OpenStreetMap before? I think most people would raise hands. So has anyone made maps with OpenStreetMap before here? Okay, 3, 5 people. Okay, nice. So the goal is in the next 2 hours, you would have done all 5 of these things. You'll know about OpenStreetMap, you would have contributed data, and you would have made a map using it. So just another side question, how many people here have a GIS background or have used GIS tools before? Okay, so about half. So, okay, good. Thank you for the information. So based on this, we'll basically tune how we organize this. So to get started, what is OpenStreetMap? So basically, when I search for something, I basically Google it and open the website. So for OpenStreetMap, when you do that, you basically get the OpenStreetMap.org website. And when you open it, you just see a map. So this is zoomed in, but if you go to like my location, okay, I think it doesn't have its GPS on, but it basically shows a map like this. So now when you see this, at least when I saw it, I thought OpenStreetMap is just yet another map. What's the big deal? But if you explore a bit, you'll see a few options are there on the side. So basically on the right side, there's a layers tab. And if you go here, you'll see the different kinds of layers. So all of this is OpenStreetMap. Even though you just see one map in the center, that is not the only OpenStreetMap. You can render the OpenStreetMap data in different ways. So I think a good way to think about it is OpenStreetMap is just data. You can build maps on top of it. So this is the standard one which most people think of, but you can also get more advanced ones like this one. So here, if you see, there's like land use and different kinds of data. So this is much more highly detailed. So this particular map is called Trace Track Topo, and it uses OpenStreetMap data along with other sources of data. So the elevation and like the hills and all which you can see over here, those are coming from other data sources. So that's basically how OpenStreetMap works. It's one source of geographical data, which you can add on with other things and build your own map. So like I mentioned, OpenStreetMap, you can think of it as 4 parts: the data, the software, the website, and the map. So when you actually open the website, that's not OpenStreetMap, that's just the OpenStreetMap website. And that has some software running in the background. It's OpenStreetMap software, but it's not OpenStreetMap by itself. But for most use cases, what people refer to is the OpenStreetMap data itself. So if someone is building an application into OpenStreetMap, they're not using OpenStreetMap software. They may not be using the website. They may not be using the OpenStreetMap map. They're using the OpenStreetMap data. So that's how you should think about OpenStreetMap. It's basically data. So most people will refer to it as a free open geographic database. So there are 3 terms here. I'll go over them. So the first one is free. So what it means to be free is that you can use the data however you want. So if you want to make a map of every flyover in Bangalore, you can do that. You can basically do whatever you want with the data. And unlike most other data sources, OpenStreetMap is completely free. So you can just download a map of the entire world. It's around like 50 GB and do whatever you want with it. 0 cost other than the data transfer cost, which the ISP charges you. Then the second part is that it's open. So when I say open, I mean there's no license attached to it. So normally when you get data from a government or something, or from a private organization, they'll attach certain NDAs to it. So you can't do this, you can't do that. You can't give it to other people. But OpenStreetMap is completely open. So you can basically do whatever you want with it and anyone can access it. And the third part is that it's a geographic database. Like I mentioned, this is the important thing. So when it comes to a geographic database, there are basically 3 kinds of data which you have. If you look at a map, there are points, there are lines or polygons and multi-polygons, which you can think of as 1-dimensional objects, 2-dimensional objects, and higher dimensional objects. But for most cases, you can ignore higher dimension. You just need 1 dimension and 2 dimension. So point is basically it has a latitude, longitude. Lines and polygons are combinations of points which are joined together. So every element in this geographic database has a latitude and longitude. That's why it's a geographic database. And to give information about that latitude, longitude, you attach information through tags. So I'll just give a few examples here. So the first one I'm going to show is a point. This is basically a tree in Cubbon Park. So you can see here. So like I mentioned, it has a latitude and a longitude and a few tags. So in this case, because it's a tree, we have the natural equal to tree tag. So these tags indicate what that object is at that location. So this is a very basic one. It's just a tree with a name, but you can add more tags for like more detailed data. So this is an example of a tower, the Kempegowda Tower near Hudson Circle. You can see it has a name. It has an etymology tag, which basically says who this object is named after. The name in Kannada, the various other tags are there. So you can basically extend any geographic data with all these tags. So then another one is a line. So this is an example of a 2D object. So here you'll see there's no latitude, longitude specified. That's because if you go down, it is a combination of 14 nodes. That means 14 points. So this is a line. In this case, it's a Sankey Tank flyover, which was proposed by the government earlier this year. And the thing with OpenStreetMap is you can map things which are either under construction or don't exist yet as well. So in this case, you can see it has highway equal to proposed. So if there's an upcoming flyover like this or under construction highway or expressway, you can have data like that in OpenStreetMap. Most other data sources don't record things like these. So if you want to basically do some research about upcoming highway projects in India, OpenStreetMap is a good data source for that. Then the next one is a polygon. It's similar to a line, but it's a closed line. So all the points are closed and they form a closed polygon. So this is basically the IIHS campus, and you can see it has address details. It has the building levels underground. So you can basically store the building height. If you have a very tall building, you can say how many floors it is. Underground also how many floors it is. And opening hours, operator phone. So all these tags you can have. So that's basically how OpenStreetMap works. You have geographic data, which is latitudes and longitudes, and you attach tags to it. One more thing that is nice is because it's a database, all historical data is stored as well. So this is an example of a metro station. This is the Tin Factory metro station, which opened last month. So you can basically go to the beginning. You can see back in 2018, someone added it as construction equal to station. And if you go back to basically 2023, you can see October 8, 2023, the construction changed to its operational station. So if you have data like this on OpenStreetMap, you can record the history of like a public transit network or basically an area of the city. If a new neighborhood is having a redevelopment project, you could look at the data 5 years ago and look at it now, and you basically have historical data on OpenStreetMap. So it has lots of data. So there are 18 lakh contributors across the world. There are 40 lakh changes per day, and there are 700 crore nodes. So 700 crore latitude, longitude points are there in the database, and this is growing every day. So some people may ask, why not Google Maps? So I mentioned it's a free open geographic database. So that's basically the 3 points why. So first I'll go over the free part. So a few years back, Google Maps increased their API fees, which basically means it costed like 15 times more than it costed one day before. So like you can see here, they mentioned they raised price 30 times and decreased usage limit by 30 times, free usage limit by 30 times. And if you look at this graph, they basically went from having to pay $0 for their service to $5,000. And Google can just do this any day they want. So if you have an application using Google Maps, they could just change their policy, they could just change their pricing, and your business could be destroyed because you're entirely dependent on them. But like I mentioned, OpenStreetMap is open and free. So the data, you already have access to it. No one can stop you from using it. Then the next part is the data is not open. So when I say open, okay, I can't open this website, I think. But basically this, no, I think their Wi-Fi is basically blocking it. Yeah, if you open this, it will say it's blocked. So they were blocking it. But basically, I made a map which shows the road quality of different roads across Bangalore. So, you know, across Bangalore, roads quality vary. Around the CBD, roads are very good. Different parts of the city, especially outskirts, potholes everywhere, roads are not tarred. So like I showed in the Sankey Tank flyover road, you can have a surface equal to tag and a smoothness equal to quality tag. So that will indicate the smoothness and the surface quality of a particular road. So what I had done in that website is I made a map which uses OpenStreetMap data to show the road quality across the city. So Google Maps, you can't do this because Google Maps does not make this data open. They have data about where people are traveling slowly, where there's high traffic, but no one has access to the data. People know Silk Road is slow, but you don't have any idea about how slow it actually is because you don't have raw data. But in OpenStreetMap, you get raw data. You can have the exact smoothness of a road, what surface it's made of, things like that. Another thing is Google decides who they want their map to be for. So this is an example of someone who's trying to use Google Maps for pedestrian routing. They want to go from point A to point B, but they want to go by foot. So the first one is what Google Maps suggests. It tells you to go on the main road, and there's nothing in between. But because OpenStreetMap has whatever data you wanted to have, there's actually a park which exists there, which Google Maps does not know about. So when you have a map where you control what data is there in it, you can add things which Google may not think is relevant. Things like parks or smaller roads, which Google Maps does not consider relevant. So that's it for the first part. What is OpenStreetMap? So anyone have any questions or want to comment about anything? Okay, so I'll go to the next part. So, oh, okay.
Hi, Vivek. So just had a quick question, like, is there any kind of data moderation that happens or data validation that happens?
Into detail in the next part, but basically lots of big
Right.
they have to
Right.
that Apple, Amazon, and all, whose entire job is to validate the data and moderate it.
Right. Thanks. Just want to check that.
Anything else? Okay, I'll cover this in more detail in the next part. So, who uses OpenStreetMap? So, there are basically two parts to OpenStreetMap. I think I'll show it later. Yeah. So, they're basically data producers and data consumers. So, data producers are people who create data, which there are lots of organizations which do this, but the data consumers, which you may not know data consumer because even you're using OpenStreetMap underneath, you may not really know about it, but happening is to open up community in groups. So most contributors to OpenStreetMap individual contributors. Like me 7 years ago, I wanted a road added to OpenStreetMap, but as community grows, OpenStreetMap groups. In Bangalore, we have an OSM Bengaluru group. OSM Bengaluru are here. OSM India group. And on the other side, you have organizations which, like he asked, big corporations and companies OpenStreetMap data. So they are adding data into OpenStreetMap. And because their business, their bottom line depends on it, they want to validate and add good quality data. So you have big corporations like Apple, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, all of FANG except Google. And you have smaller companies like Ola and Swiggy who are adding data to OpenStreetMap. So to the data consumer side, basically everyone who produces data use it. So all of the data consumers, but you also have non-profit organizations. So organizations like Medicine Sans Frontiers and Red Cross. You have geodata services. So if you use GIS or you work in GIS, you probably use tools from Esri or Digital Globe or something. And some of their data is based on OpenStreetMap data. And there are also lots of government news organizations, educational institutions who use OpenStreetMap. So there's a official website on the OpenStreetMap page where you basically see the list of consumers of OpenStreetMap data. It's a long list. I won't go over it completely, but everyone is not included here. It's just people who reveal they're using it. You can obviously use OpenStreetMap without telling people you're using it because it's open and free. So then the next part is you'd probably be wondering how do people use it? So I'll just go over a few example people use it. So these are two of the websites I made. So one is this India Transit website. This is a live real-time visual metro trains. So this is the green line and the purple line in Bangalore. And right now, based on Namma metro schedule, this is where the trains are supposed to be. You can obviously go faster and slow. So using schedule, you that make an like this. This is something I made, so really basic. But then you have other dedicated applications. So one of them is organic maps. So this is an Android application, which is basically a replacement for Google Maps. So what you can do is use it like Google Maps. You want to get from point A to point B. It runs using OpenStreetMap data. So it's completely offline, completely open source. And it supports things which Google Maps does not. So it has cycling routes, which so it has cycling routes. So in Bangalore, there are cycling lanes. No. Sorry. Laptop is muted, no? Yeah. Muted. Okay, is it still like the main speaker? Is it muted?
It's muted. Yeah. No, the mic also muted.
Hello, hello. Okay, it's working now, I think. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. So organic maps is basically a Google Maps replacement, but using OpenStreetMap data. So Maps does not have the bicycle lanes, and there are very few of them, but OpenStreetMap has them. And you want cycle things like that, the pedestrian routing thing which I showed. If you go to car park and see, not have OpenStreetMap has almost all of them. So organic maps can do this, which Google Maps cannot. And then one more one is OSM AND, which like organic maps is a Android iOS application for using OpenStreetMap data as a navigation service. So one nice thing about OSMAN is that it includes elevation and basically elevation data. So if you're going on a hike, it basically has data about how much uphill you're going to go, how much downhill you're going to go. Suppose you're an avid hiker, you go on hikes often, you want to plan a hike. You can't use Google Maps because Google Maps does not know how much elevation gain is going to be there. It probably doesn't have the trail to begin with, but OpenStreetMap has this. So you can plan out your hike using OSMAN. So these are two applications which lots of like individuals use. Hikers use OSMAN, cyclists use organic maps because Google Maps does not do these things. So there are a bunch more tools. Let us go a few of them. So one of them is this 3D buildings one. This one is using the building colon levels and building height data on OpenStreetMap. So this particular one is Cubbon Park. So you can see this is the High Court. All these are 3D buildings. This is UB City. So on OpenStreetMap, you have the building, you have the building height tag, you have the tag, the building material tag. Using that data, get 3D buildings like this. No, the traffic is just animation. The whole thing is animation, it's not live. So another one, this is an indoor map. This is the Majestic Metro Station underground. So Google Maps, of course, does not have the Majestic Metro Station, but you can see these are the two platforms for the green line towards Nagasandra and towards Silk Institute. These are the elevators. This is the elevator. This is the escalators. These are benches, and you can go to the other purple line level as well. The whole platform is mapped. So if you use organic maps or OSMAN and you haven't been to the Majestic Metro Station before, it will guide you. Google Maps probably won't do that because it does not have the station map in it. Then, like the previous one, you can have buildings as well. So this is a building in Pune, I think. This is basically some university building. They've mapped individual labs, faculty room, classroom. So if you are like IISS and you want a highly detailed map of your campus, you can use OpenStreetMap. You can't do this on Google Maps, obviously. Then you can get things like land use data, which if you're into maybe urban planning or something, and you want to see what impact metro line or a new bus route will have, and use of the area, things like these are useful. So this is basically Cubbon Road, MG Road, Kasturba Road. And on the right, this pie chart is there. It basically shows the land use division in that area based on OpenStreetMap data. So you can see this is the CBD, so it's basically industrial, commercial. The sports stadiums and grounds are there. This Cubbon Park, 8%. And residential/commercial buildings is like 7%. So again, this is using OpenStreetMap data. Then one more thing is electrical infrastructure. So most people probably don't know where your nearest thermal power plant is. So there is one. I'm not sure if it's operational, but it exists. Like that, you can basically see the map of the entire electrical grid and electrical production network in India. So this is around Bangalore. Yeah. So the different colors indicate different voltage levels. So the blue one is like the 550 kilovolts. These are basically the transmission lines around Bangalore. Of course, you can go to the rest of India. You can see where all the thermal power plants are, where the hydroelectric power plants are, nuclear power plants, all this OpenStreetMap data. Then another one is etymology. Etymology is basically where a name came from. So this map, again, OpenStreetMap data, it shows the etymology of places in Bangalore. So when you select a particular road, so this is Sankey Tank Road. Those two are not, I think, configured correctly. Or maybe the internet is slow, it's loading. But basically, any road in Bangalore, you want to know who that person is, why it was named after them. You can select the road, find out more information about the person, and you have a etymology map of Bangalore using OpenStreetMap data. Then, yeah, which you add to OpenStreetMap. Yeah. Obviously, things are missing. Lots of roads people don't know who it's named after. But if you discover something or you do some research on your own, you can add it to OpenStreetMap so other people can find out. Then this is Open Railway Map. This is all the railway lines in the world, similar to the electrical thing, but for railways. And then one more thing also is cycle OSM. So I mentioned about the bicycle lane. So this is something which only OpenStreetMap has, Google Maps does not have. So these are the ones on Cubbon Road, Rajbhavan Road, Residency Road. These are marked. So you're probably a cyclist in Bangalore. You're not a cyclist and you don't know how to get from A to B. Cycle OSM is good. And if you're not a cyclist and you want to become a cyclist, Deep over here is building his own cycle, so you can have a chat with him and learn more about his cycle. And then, because you can display it how you want to, you can also make fancy maps. So this is a watercolor style map of Bangalore. This is Cubbon Park. This is like the golf course. This is not meant to be functionally useful. It's just meant to look good. But of course, you can make maps like this if you want to. And then one more urban planning kind of use is city access map. So this is not OpenStreetMap itself, but they use OpenStreetMap to basically find the average travel time to different utilities in your city. So you can rank cities by how convenient it is to access different utilities. And this wouldn't be possible without OpenStreetMap because you need a good, open, accessible geographic database with all this data. So these are just a few tools. Like I mentioned, there are organizations as well. So one of them is TrueFi. So basically a German organization, and what they do is they digitize public transport data. So in lots of cities, especially in Africa and South America, they don't have digital public transport data. We have a new Nama BMTC app, which is not really good either. But in other cities, they don't have any app to begin with. So what they have done is they work with local communities and they basically use OpenStreetMap to digitize their public transport data. Then the other one is Hot OSM. So this is an organization which works with like the Red Cross, Medicine Sans Frontiers, and different humanitarian organizations. In Nepal, there was a big earthquake in 2015. Google Maps did not exist in Nepal at that time. So when you have to organize humanitarian relief and get the required relief to people, you need to know where they are, where the buildings are destroyed, where the damage is done. So organizations like Hot OSM, they work with mappers to look at the recent satellite data and digitize it into OpenStreetMap. And then humanitarian organizations like the Red Cross or whatever, they will use that data to find where to send relief. So this is another organization using OpenStreetMap data. And then, of course, there are companies like I mentioned. So Swiggy and Ola use it. They don't talk about it publicly, but this is the OpenStreetMap wiki. You can see Swiggy has their own page and usage of OSM maps in Swiggy. So Swiggy uses OSM as one of the data for their internal routing service. So like this, there are other companies which are probably using it. They won't even mention about it on OpenStreetMap. Swiggy is at least mentioning it on OpenStreetMap. They may not talk about it publicly. Similarly, Ola also uses it. Both Swiggy and Ola have teams dedicated to adding data on OpenStreetMap. Apple, Microsoft, Meta, all of them use it. Yeah. So any questions about how OpenStreetMap is used or who uses it or anything? Yeah.
I mean, I just had a question. Like all the websites you showed us, those are still very independent websites on which OpenStreetMaps is I mean, they are hosting OpenStreetMaps to do extra work on it, right?
Yeah. So they just take OpenStreetMap data and they build the application on top of it. They have nothing to do with OpenStreetMap. If OpenStreetMap disappears, they'll still exist.
Okay.
Or if they disappear, OpenStreetMap will still exist.
Okay, understood.
Reading. Okay, I'll give it over to Ruel. Oh no, one question. Yeah, organic maps is here. Yeah, so it's basically an offline maps alternative, but it focuses more on pedestrian and cycling routing. So especially in European countries, they have lots of good walking and cycling infrastructure. Lots of people in Europe don't use Google Maps because Google Maps does not do that well. They use organic maps. So this is there on all the app stores, App Store, Play Store. You can get it. It's 100% offline. So you can have a map of the entire world on your phone for like 50 GB. So if you're planning a trip to Japan or something, you don't want to use Google Maps, you don't want to download waste data on Google Maps, you can just download organic maps and use it. Yeah, one. Yeah, organic maps is offline. Both OSM and organic maps are offline. Most OpenStreetMap applications are offline because you have the data. Why not use it offline? Yeah.
Has there been any attempt by the Karnataka government to use OpenStreetMap data in the past?
You asking the Karnataka government using
Or
OpenStreetMap?
Bangalore civic
Yeah,
bodies?
so the Karnataka government itself, they don't publicly talk about it, but you may know about DULT. So DULT has used it. So recently for the HSR feeder bus, which they launched, they put out a map. That map was actually using OpenStreetMap data. You can see the individual parks which they marked, some roads which they marked are not there on Google Maps, are not there on BBMP maps. It's there only on OpenStreetMap. So internally they use it for different things. And I think BBMP also put out some tender recently for high density corridors. That tender also, it's not directly government, but the people who work on those tenders also use OpenStreetMap data.
They don't publicly declare that.
Generally, most people don't publicly reveal using OpenStreetMap data because I think there's no point for people revealing it because their job is not to talk about their data source. BBMP has bigger problems to deal with. The Karnataka government has bigger problems to deal with than talk about their data sources. But you can assume in most cases, there's no other data source. So this is what they must be using, unless they have the internal data source, which in many cases they may not have. Any other questions? Okay, then I'll hand it over to Ruel. He'll take over from here.
Thanks so much, Vivek. Let me just close a few slides, otherwise, close a few tabs. So what Vivek has done is he's given us the background of what OpenStreetMap is, who are some of the users. What I'm going to be focusing on a bit is why should you be involved? So we had a good idea of how familiar you are with OpenStreetMaps. I'm just going to be talking about a few stories about how I got into it and how I hope that each of you also get into it, right? So every time I explain to someone I'm doing this thing called OpenStreetMap just as a hobby, the first question they say is, why not just use Google Maps, right? So when you're talking to just individuals, Vivek was talking about the financial aspects, but the individuals are like, why should I mean, I can use it, right? It's easy, everyone knows it. So Google has a motto that says, do no evil, right? But their motto is not do good. So we have to be very careful of that. So when you look at the maps of Google Maps, they are going to invest in areas where they make money, right? Which means highly dense cities where they can advertise. So if you look at rural areas, there is no mapping over them, right? So Vivek was talking about that humanitarian aspect. But there's also the financial and all of that, right? So how did I get into OpenStreetMap? It was during COVID. I absolutely love to travel. And my favorite part about travel is the first 2 weeks or the first week that you're in a new place, everything looks new, right? you suddenly start noticing, oh, look at the pavement, or look at the trees are different, or the people dressed differently, right? And within a week or two, you're walking the same street, you just tune off, right? So you would have experienced the same thing, right? If you're in a new city, everything looks new, and then you're going to work every day on the same road, you just don't notice anything. So a few things of why I hope that you get into OpenStreetMap. It's a lot of fun, right? You can stay curious, the awareness of these small things, you start to notice things around you. The curiosity also, I don't know, I've had this experience, I don't know, some of you might have it. You wonder, oh, what's down that road? And you start exploring your own city, your own neighborhood, right? So I've made it a point to go down every single road in my neighborhood just out of mapping. It's something to do, and you notice things over there. You also learn things. So Vivek was talking about just those different things, right? Like you can look at streets, you can look at buildings, anything. So one thing I noticed was trees, right? I go around, or a few years ago, I would go around saying, oh, look at that tree, that's a tree, that's a tree, right? And I realized that I sound like a child who only knows one word, which is mama, right? They point at everything and say mama. But in reality, there's so much of variety in every single tree. The species, when it's flowering, what height it is, right? So this is something that I thought, okay, let me try and do that. So this is where I used to live. This is something that Vivek was showing as well earlier, a tool. This is all the buildings. So I decided, okay, I'll map all the buildings. Then I'll map all the light poles in my area. So you see the light poles, you see the heights of the lights, you can see the colors. Then I started looking at trees. And so every single tree over here, I mapped the tree. So once the object is on the map, then you can start adding properties to it, right? So someone who knows the species better than I am, there are apps to help in recording that. So as they're walking past, they say, oh, there's a tree over here. So what's the species? They can add the species. You can add the height of the tree, the circumference of the trunk, right? All of these additional data that comes about over there. Or even just electrical infrastructure, right? So Vivek showed the OpenStreetMap, so Open Infra Map. That's something that is incredible. But what I want you to see also is just see the entire world and see the areas that are mapped and the areas that aren't mapped, or the areas with lower infrastructure, right? You're just looking at one category of data in the map, and you can see so much of that. And Bangalore, like even as Vivek showed, like you can see where which power plant it's coming from. If you go completely into more detail, I'm a little proud of this because that's an area that I've done myself. So if you start looking down over there and you go further and further, you start seeing the actual light poles in your neighborhood, right? And this could be tracked to the power plant. So right now it's not connected, but imagine now when you look on the street outside your house and you think this light pole is connected to an atomic power plant in China, right? Just the brilliance of that, the connection and the infrastructure in this world. So yeah, get into this because it's a lot of fun. The second is to know your neighborhood. So you can do simple things like tree stumps, right? So let me just show you. We'll get more into this later, but let's say I'm looking at my neighborhood, right? So I just see, I'm looking at my neighborhood. I want to figure out where are the places that, I don't know, people have cut trees, right? OpenStreet data, I can download that data pretty easily. We'll get into more details, but I'm just showing you a sort of snippet of that. I just say something, I mean, you figure out what the details are. But I want to find all the tree stumps in my area, right? So extent. And I'm just showing you how ridiculously easy this is, right, to get that. This is, now I see why you were struggling. It's difficult to use with the zoom overlays. Okay. Cool. So what you're seeing over there, I'll just remove the other map so you get it. You start to see every tree that was cut in the neighborhood, right? and you realize, oh, there's a lot. Otherwise, we're just talking about these ideas like, oh, there's deforestation, there's trees getting cut in my neighborhood. But here, you know the number, you can figure out when it was cut, you can figure out which areas that is getting cut. You can link that to say, okay, these are the construction sites. So are the trees getting cut because there are construction? Is there anything else, right? You can figure out the changes in the land use, right? Or light poles. So this is something that I had done. I had mapped all my light poles. In my neighborhood, there was a problem of like, oh, there are some light poles that aren't working. I didn't know how to create an app that well. I created a very rudimentary thing. Anyone could just click on this and say, this is broken, right? But for any of you who are much better at programming, you can do that for the entire city, right? Perhaps link it directly to the authorities. So they know that they don't have to say some light pole in some areas working. They can get the exact ID, the exact location. They know where to go and fix it, right? So again, just very simple examples of this land use of a particular area. For those of you who are into mapping, you'll be horrified. There's no scale, no legend, no direction. This is just an artistic representation, right, of land use. You can track that over time. For those of you guessing which area that is, this might help you, but it's a famous area in India, right? Or light poles. What are the light poles? What are the colors? Which direction are they facing? Which areas, which streets in my area need additional lighting because it's not lit enough, right? Stats, again, it's a huge community. It's a huge thing. So be a part of something bigger. The community in India is incredible. For those of you who are new, they're extremely supportive. Each person is doing like very nice projects. There's some people mapping villages, some people trying to get government data, put it on like there's village boundaries, administrative boundaries, all of that. And it's a brilliant community. But what's interesting is each person, like Vivek showed so many different examples. If you're interested in benches, you can create data out of that, right? You can map for that, you can use that. So take an example of Tesla. They started using OpenStreetMap. They realized that their cars didn't know how to navigate in parking spaces because no one had mapped that. So they just put out a post saying, please help us. Within a few weeks, all over the US, people had mapped the actual parking lot spaces, right? And so their cars were able to use that better. There's something called these defibrillators. If some of you have traveled in different places, that's to help someone having a heart attack or cardiac thing in a public space, right? So someone created that and said, okay, where can I find the AEDs around the world, right? So there is stats, there's also usable information, right? So if you're in a particular city, you can look up a map and see where that thing actually is, right? It's not just the stats, but then the actual point that is available. So how far am I from that if I do need that, right? Or fire extinguishers. Some people work with that as well. So there's a lot of different things. Wheelchair maps. You can figure out which areas are accessible. So it's up to you what you're interested in, and also like what you want to contribute to, right? So anyway, if there's someone you know, or if you yourself have issues with accessibility, this becomes an additional data source that you can use, right? Yeah. It depends what you're familiar with. So we're going to show you exactly how you can get the data. So it can be, there are simple sites where you can do something like that, create your own map. If you have GIS experience, you can use different tools, QGIS, ArcGIS, all of that. We're going to show you how exactly to do that as well, so that you can try it out now also. So yeah, they're different. The entire spectrum is there. Something that's very simple, just click and play online. You don't have to install anything, or you can use the raw data itself. So it's up to you and how how much of how much knowledge you have as well. So yeah. Yeah, within what? Yeah, you can do that. So the thing is that again, the actual data is available for you how you want to use it. You can create your own server. You can pull the data in through APIs. You can get only that particular data. So all these examples, what we're showing, they actually refresh the data. So they're getting filtered data of only wheelchair access or only power, right? So the actual data set is massive, but you can use whatever you want and however you want it. Any other questions since we? No? Cool. So yeah, stats just in terms of updated stats. So yeah, across the world, people are mapping. There's this site is also maintained by one person. Again, all volunteer basis of that. From the humanitarian angle, Vivek mentioned hot OSM or humanitarian OSM. This is something that they had released in terms of their findings from 2020. So obviously it's different now, but about 2 billion people in the world are not mapped properly, right? So imagine like all over Africa, they work a lot. If there's a crisis, no one knows how to get to that village. We take it for granted. We just look up, we find where we want to go and all of that. But imagine if you don't know how to do that, right? Or if the main road that you know is blocked or a flood comes and washes over the road. What are the alternate paths? We don't know for a lot of people, right? And the final thing is, some of you might be working with the government. I know there are questions. How do you hold your government accountable, right? If they say we made 500 kilometers of new state highways, where is it? Show me on the map, right? Because we can't go and physically actually recommend that, right? BBMP tree census, every 3 months, there's a news article that the tree census is going to start. It's been going on for five years, right? About to start. I saw last week that they said, no, it might get delayed a bit more. But what if all of us actually just went out and mapped our neighborhood? We'll know every tree in Bangalore within the next year, right? If each of us do that. I was talking to an organization who told me, yeah, we've done an analysis of the data. There is X number of public toilets in Bangalore. Some number they gave me. I said, yeah, but I don't know where those are. I don't know if the toilet is open, if it's clean, can I use it? You can tell me, yes, the government is building more toilets. Where are they, right? If we have that data, we can show it. Any one of us can verify it. Let's say I say there's a toilet here. Someone walks past and says, no, the toilet's not here anymore. It's been broken down, it's been demolished. The map can be updated straight away, right? So this is more just in terms of why you should get involved, because of the curiosity. You want to hold your government accountable. There could be a humanitarian angle, or there's some specific interest that you might be interested, right? I'll just break there for any questions over here. Anyone good? Yeah.
So I think you have contributed that place, like you have marked the trees there.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you did exactly, you downloaded the old data and the new data to show the difference, or is it something else?
No. I just downloaded new. I mean, this was not rendering. I think it was.
Okay.
Because I downloaded it at home, so it was just a scratch.
I thought
here.
both are different data.
No. This one I just downloaded fresh right now. So this, what I did is the exact updated data right now. And that's what you're going to do after the session as well. So the idea is all of us now are going to put in data, and then we use it however we want to use it for some map, right? Data. In terms of like the history.
Yeah. So okay, similar to GitHub, you commit on certain and as you upgrade the points or code, you can see the versions.
Yeah.
So in the public toilets, the problem which we were working in our startup is in a similar way, but in a social computing platform. So we want to know, they build highways, and they're building multiple layers of highways after 3 years, 4 years. The critical example why we are solving is Bangalore. BDA, they build roads and you get holes, potholes there,
Okay.
and they build again. So is there a way to find out what kind of data versioning possible? We know the timestamp can be done, but how do you measure, enable the data versioning? Certain there is stretch of highway contract is been laid out. So after 3 years or 1 year, they'll lay another road. So accountable in terms of tax expenditures. In that context, can we enable data labeling similar to the in a large scale? Is one of the problem we are trying to work on? Is there a way?
Yeah, so definitely. So again, it matters on how fresh the data is, right? So in Bangalore, let's say in your example, there's a particular road, you want to see what the quality of road is, and then it changes, right? So Vivek was giving that example of surface. So if he has mapped the surface of the road or said that the quality is bad 3 years ago and no one updates it on the map, we don't know. Has the government actually intervened? Is it the road exactly the same like that? So it's a matter of how fresh the data is. But any of you can walk past that road and say, no, Vivek is wrong. It's no longer a bad road, right? It's a better road now.
Yeah, I mean, along with that, like we get satellite data, and you can do up to 5-meter, 3-meter Navi satellites.
Sure.
If the access you get, and those are stationary, geostationary satellites rather than moving rotational. So we can use satellite data to analyze, at least in terms of in a daylight.
Yeah. So again, like this is one source in your analysis, right?
Yeah.
OpenStreetMap becomes one layer. You can add to that satellite information. Maybe you have your own private data sources, something that you've collected that you can't put in the open space. So this just becomes one additional area for analysis. Anyone else? Or we're going to jump straight into actually doing the mapping, right? So let's start with that. I think everyone has your laptops. What we're going to do is just this session is going to be adding data. And then we break, and then you can actually use the data that you added because it's available for you straight away, or you can use some other data set as well, right? So yeah, we could do that. Sure. Just as a break for, yeah.
From the front here, just give yourself like, who you are, if you like to share your real name or not, all of that I'm not going to specify, but yeah, what do you do? What are you interested in? How do you hear about us? Things like that. Just general information. If you like to start with that. So.
Hi, I'm Abhiram. I'm doing my bachelor's in design in Srishti Manipal Institute. I'm in my 7th semester. Currently, I'm trying to map a village called Gantiganhalli and study how urbanization has influenced that village. It's in the northern periphery of Bangalore. So I'm trying to analyze how that village is undergoing urbanization. So document it in the current time and predict how it might change in the future.
Okay, I'm Vivek. I am an OpenStreetMap contributor by hobby, but I'm actually a DevOps engineer / cloud infrastructure engineer by profession. That's it.
Hi, my name is Aman Bagrecha. I am one of the organizers of this meetup. I work as geospatial scientist at a company called Galaxy Space. We are building a multi-sensor satellite. But I've met Vivek and Ruel, I think from 1 year now. And they are one of the top experts in India, if not the world. And having known Vivek, he'll wake up in the morning 6 a.m. and do the mapping. So you should all, just get inspired by how, and they're not earning anything. So it's just their hobby. Yeah, they're not anything from mapping this. It's just their hobby. So glad to hear from them. And I've learned so much just in half an hour. So glad to be here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shiv Ranjan. I'm working as a research intern at IIHS in the Urban Informatics Lab. So I'm actually a bit fresh to this field because I've been only in this field for 6 months in the field of geoinformation science. So I'm glad to be here. I'm hoping I'll learn a lot, meet everyone here. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Vaibhav. I'm pursuing engineer at RNSIT College, and I found out about this workshop through the meetup application. And I'm totally new to the concept of OSM and geostationing. And since I was interested in communication and space communication, I thought I would try it out, and it's very exciting. I'm very happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Maitre. I used to work as a journalist. Right now, I work at A3, which is a environment and ecology research center. So I don't know much about mapping. I'm just here because I'm curious.
Hi, my name is Deep. I am an entrepreneur. I'm building electric bicycles for commuter use. I got involved with OpenStreetMaps through Mr. Vivek. I attended a few mapping parties and mapped a few things. So it's mostly a hobby. And I also use OpenStreetMaps to create JavaScript maps for web maps that can be shared, data map.
Hi, I'm Sindhura. I'm a urban designer and I currently work at Mod Foundation. I've been doing like QGIS and mapping for a couple of years now, and this is just exciting and really nice to be here and network.
Hi, my name is Rita. I'm a design intern also at Mod Institute and Foundation. And I think I got interested in mapping and sort of QGIS through Sindhura and another colleague of mine. And so I'm here just to expand my knowledge of the same.
Hello everyone, I'm Ritam and I'm working as a GIS analyst for around last 3 years. And into OSM, I'm little new into OSM. Actually in the edit process, I'm doing it for last 4 months, I think. And as Vivek was saying, yes, Ola is using. I am also from Ola and we are using OSM and we are building our own maps there. So we are contributing partly into OSM and into our own map. So it's very interesting though. Thanks.
Hi, myself Mansur Ali Khan. I work for Ola, and even I started my career in operation, but all of a sudden I have moved to maps, that is OSM. Started my career just 5 months ago in Ola.
Hey, hi, folks. My name is Anand, and my disciplinary background is in political science. So this whole GIS thing is so new for me, and even I struggle to figure it out how to use it. But I'm very curious to understand these new things, and I hope it will help me in my career perspective too. But so thank you so much. And one thing, I'm here at Urban Fellow Program at the IHS. Thank you.
Hello.
So I'm Niranjan. So I'm a startup guy. I'm building a startup. I'm civil engineer by graduate, doing AML for past 10 years. Currently, we were developing a research on spatial analytics and Earth observatory products. We're trying to develop data plane for large scale.
Hi, everybody. I'm Swati. I'm a social science researcher. I look at issues of civic participation, especially with respect to data collection. And since this is one of those things, I was really curious. So that's why I'm here.
Hi, I'm Ben. I work as a data analyst for a startup called as Namayatri in Bangalore. So we are also a contributors of OSRM and here to explore how to optimize OSRM better and contribute more accurate routing.
Hi, I'm Srinivas, same Namayatri team. So when contributing to OSRM, we tried doing that with our some heartbeat locations of driver, and we wanted to know how else we can contribute and maybe possibly use it also in real time. So that is where we were trying to explore, and we thought this will be a good platform to check that out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rohit. I work here as an external consultant in Geospatial Lab. So I am new to this GIS. I just started like exploring GIS and like OSM leaflet, everything 6 months back. So yeah, like I'll be using more this. So it's a learning opportunity for me. Yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Narsama. Currently, I'm working as a GIS engineer in Satyuk Analytics, and very glad to be here to learn about OSM. Thank you.
Hi everyone, myself Tyahu. I'm also one of the organizer of this Let's Talk Spatial event, and I takes care of the satellite and remote sensing team in Satyuk Analytics. I consume the OSM data a lot. The contribution is very less, but I consume it very well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sharad. I'm an architect by qualification. I work with Gopalan School of Architecture and Planning. I will be heading up the urban design studio for the 8th semester. So I have a passing familiarity with OpenStreetMaps and QGIS. So when I say passing familiarity, I've seen somebody else do it. So hopefully this today's exercise should help me in learning a little bit about how to apply these apply these tools and hopefully help the students to generate maps for our urban design studio. I have some personal interests as well, which I'll probably discuss at a slightly later point. But yeah, largely this should be. I look forward to this being very helpful.
Hello, everyone. I'm Deepthi. I'm also an architect and urban designer. I also work along with Sharad in Gopalan School of Architecture, and I'm also a research scholar. So I just wanted to know and get a little more familiarity on OSM, on how I can use it for my research work as well. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nirvan. I am also a consultant at GSL IHS. I have a planning background as well, so I've extensively exploited OSM data for till now. So I thought it's time to learn how to contribute to it as well.
Hi, I'm Vijaya Hegde. I also work with Sharad and Deepthi at Gopalan School of Architecture, and I'm a research scholar as well at Christ University. I'm looking at regulating tourism development in coastal areas. So Gokarna is my study area. So I will require mapping there. So that's why I'm here.
Hi, I'm Abhishek. I work in the renewable energy space in a company called Enphase. I worked with geospatial data in my college time, and I'm exploring more what can be done.
Okay, cool. I guess I'm the last one to go. I'm Amrut. I work at the Geospatial Lab here at IHS. Again, massive consumers of OSM, hobbyist on the contributory side. So apologize for that, but hopefully this should kickstart some of my, maybe not 6 a.m. editing, but towards the evening would be a little bit more yeah, convenient. But yeah, I mostly work with a lot of big data analysis and sort of platform dissemination for social work and things like that. A lot of survey design. Also faculty for some of the fellows who have attended. I'll see to the rest of them next week when I go to their class. But yeah, we do teach OSM in our classes for the Geospatial Lab for the fellowship program. And we try to inculcate the habit of using open source technologies at IHS and Geospatial Lab. So that's where we like to sort of push forward that a lot of these activities are a little bit more coinciding with real world trends and technologies, and happy to see a lot of industry folks coming in here as well. So thank you all for coming. Again, I think we can get started with the hands-on part of it. If there are any issues with Wi-Fi laptops, because we'll be using it now, connect to the guest ID on both sides. If you have not connected so far, there is extension cords at the bottom for your laptops as well. If you need water in the cafeteria on the back side, there is water as well. So after we do this, I guess we can break, but I'll hand it over to our hosts. Yeah.
Yeah, hey. I have a very basic questions I wanted to ask. Who maps the territory of the country? Like I am just looking open aid maps, and the territory of India is just our upper JNK is taken by Pakistan and the China thing. And even you look the Google map, it's okay. They are showing every. I mean, so Indian integrate sovereign territory. Who decides that territory of India?
Very good question. India is not the only country with border issues, right? So there are numerous border issues all over the world. So how does this work? Each of the local areas can map their administrative boundaries, right? So if you look at the default OpenStreetMap website, you'll see the wrong boundary of India, right? So what the India group has done is put up their own website, which Vivek is opening, which is OpenStreetMap.in. It's a mirror of the data, only the front end is changed, right? And so we have an overlay over there to show the correct map, because actually it's illegal in India to show another map, right? You can be put in jail if you don't show this map. So that's the fact is that each map can do, each country or each region can do that. So wherever there are border issues, you can do the same thing, right? So all of the raw data is still available for you. What you're putting in the front end, you can change to suit your own needs, right? But it's a great question. So there are, again, we know that there's so many wars going around. So there's a lot of edit wars also happening on OpenStreetMap as well. So yeah. Any other question? Yeah. So yes, a lot of people are trying to work with the government data. So whenever they release anything that's open, there are numerous volunteers who try and put this onto OpenStreetMap, right? Why? Because government data might be released, but you'll have to log in, go behind a captcha, then you'll get a PDF file at the end of the day, right? So we try and use that and make it as easily accessible on OpenStreetMap. Cool. So very simple. What I'm going to Oh, my introduction. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so this, I just do it as a hobby. I started maybe about 4 years ago. Never met Vivek, never met anyone else who's doing it for the first 3 years. I just did it on my own. And then we randomly started meeting with these sessions. So yeah, really excited to be part of OSM Bangalore and see so many new people also. So yeah. So great. So for those of you who have never logged in, never created an account, very simply, this is the website which you can go to. Just search for OpenStreetMap or type that out.
just put your hand up or stop me if you need any questions. There'll be a few people walking around as well. So if you have any questions, you're stuck at any point, just reach out to them, right? They'll be roaming around. Just a show of hands, those who don't have an account yet. Okay, cool. So I'll just wait for y'all. So that's OpenStreetMap. There's a sign up process on the top right. Pretty straightforward. You can put in your details. Address is never shown, so your username is really your public ID. I won't explain that process because I'm sure all of you are familiar with it. But I'll give you just a few minutes. You can do that, and then we'll get back. Check. Is everyone done with that? Okay, cool. Everyone's got an account. So then what I'm going to show you is just the navigation and just a few things over there. You've got on the top, you have the area where you can search for. So I don't know, maybe your ancestral village, some place that you visited recently, you can search for that. Have a look at what data is already there. Maybe it's completely blank, like you're looking at a village, there's no name, there could be no roads. Maybe it's very mapped. Or if you're looking at a city area in Bangalore, probably you'll have more data, but other cities may not. So have a look around at that, see what data is available, what's not. Mostly what you'll have, like, I think you'll have, like Vivek was showing, you've got different layers. You're probably defaulted on standard on the right. So you'll generally see civil infrastructure, most of that, most of the data is here. There's not much that's filtered. I'll give you a few minutes just to explore, look around, see your area that you're looking at. Then I'll explain a few concepts, and then you can even start mapping. Cool. So just one concept I want you all to understand. When we talk about mapping, there are two broad types of mapping. One is called remote mapping. So that's something that we're doing right now, which means you're going to look at satellite imagery. You're going to see what is over there, and you're going to try and map the geography of it. So either the point or the line around that area. And you're going to say what that is, right? So is it a building? Is it a lake? Is it a road? some aspects we don't know. We don't know what the opening hours are, right? From a remote person. So that's satellite remote mapping. And then there's on ground or survey mapping, right? You might have some private knowledge. It might be your road where you live. So you have some information, you know where the post office is, where the shop is, those kind of two concepts, right? So that's a big picture. Let me just show you the mechanism of how to edit for those of you who've never done it. And just a few things. So there's an edit on the top. As soon as you click edit, what you'll see is a satellite imagery. You can choose your satellite imagery as well. Different areas have better resolution. So all of these companies have released their satellite imagery for OpenStreetMap to use. So you cannot use Google Maps data or Google Maps satellite imagery and map over here, right? So only the ones that are released over here are things that are available because they've released their license for OpenStreetMap, right? So what you do is you have satellite imagery. You'll start seeing, you might not see any data initially if you're too far zoomed out. As you zoom in, you'll start seeing more and more data, right? So let me go to an area perhaps with some data already available, and then we'll compare that to something that isn't, right? So as I zoom in further and further onto this, I start seeing some lines, right? So if you click on the line, on the left side panel, you understand what that line is, what data is already there, right? So this means that someone has mapped this data as a residential road. They've got some information over here. So remember, there are those two concepts, right? You have the location and then the properties associated with it, right? So let's just take, for example, let me go to a completely empty space, right? So or let's say something that has not been mapped at all, right? Let's find something. I think I have mapped too much in this. So, so I do satellite mapping when I have boring work calls. So you know how boring my work calls are. Okay, so let's say I found a spot. I see nothing over here. The question is, what do we have to do? We have to do two things, right? We create the physical object and we have to know what to tag it with, right? So I'm going to start with lines because that's fairly simple in terms of what we have. You click on the line. Ideally, you have something that is with high resolution. You can click on any of these points, or you click on the line, it starts creating a line. So I'm going to do this a bit rough, but I'll show you how to get that better, right? I click around, double click to end that. That sort of gives me the object entirely. Right now, this is just an empty object. It's just a line. It does not have any information on it. There's no data. So the question is, how do I find out what I want to map? ID is extremely user intuitive. It's very helpful that way. So you've got some things that pop up on the side, right? But you want to search for it. You know this is a road. You just search for road, right? It gives you all of those information. Now, there's still a lot of different options here. So I don't know what to do, right? The way I learned this is you go into the wiki for OpenStreetMaps. There's a quick way to go as well. So let's say, I don't know, is this a primary road, secondary road, tertiary road? What is it? So if you click on I on the side, there's a view documentation object link over there, right? Clicking that just opens it straight into the wiki for OpenStreetMap. So the wiki is the way to understand like what the conventions are. Globally, there are conventions for naming, all of that. Sometimes there's local conventions as well. So let's just say I know I want to create a road, right? You can look through this. It's extremely well segregated, like what is the tags. So I say highway, motorway, and there's a sort of ranking, right? I understand this is some remote road in the middle of a village that I've selected. So obviously it's not a highway, it's not a trunk road primary, and you can understand the explanation. And helpfully, there are also pictures to understand that. If you don't know anything, you just ask here. If you're doing this at home, there are groups we'll tell you about. You can ask over there and say, do I use this tag or that tag? And people are going to respond and help you, right? Any questions just in terms of the mechanism? So play around for now. We'll explain what you can map and all. Sorry, you have a question? Yeah. 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 You can draw a line anywhere. So when it comes to the things like roads, ideally you want to connect it to something, right? Like, because otherwise, so it might throw an error saying, hey, this road is connected to nothing, right? So the idea is there is some infrastructure, but they've got excellent error management. So let's say sometimes you're so far out in the middle of nowhere, you have no choice, right? It doesn't matter. You can start it anywhere you want. If you have drawn a line, so that's a new line, you can the line is composed of different points, right? So you can move a point around if you want, if it's not well adjusted to the imagery. You can create new points. So in the middle of a line, if you see just to get the curves better, maybe there's something that's not aligned properly, right? There are helpful ways like that. You can adjust existing lines. So even someone has not mapped in enough detail, or it's done like at a higher or a lower resolution, they may not have had enough information before. There are different shortcuts that you helpful things. So if you right click on something, you can see different menu options that come. You won't need all of them right now, but I'll explain a few of them. Just go over that. You can get some idea, right? Some of them might be useful, some for now, some may not. That's a line. I'm not going to actually complete this, so don't worry about it. I'll explain to you how you can close a chain set, all of that.
I have a question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're using satellite images for referencing the lines and polygons that we're drawing, right? So, how do we decide what of those satellite images do we use? Because we know there's going to be shifts among some of them, and how do we now manage? For example, if one layer is created by somebody using S3 and somebody else has used Mapbox, for example, there might be a shift.
Yeah.
So then, how do we now manage the change in vector shifts when we now digitize them?
Great question. So how OpenStreetMap works for the shift concept is that people can upload GPX tracks as well, right? So what we do as a community is everyone uploads that. So this is again one other aspect of it. Open GPX tracks, you can actually average that out over time, try and understand where the shifts are happening, and do that. So this interface is very simplistic. You just have that, right? There are more advanced tools where you can actually shift your imagery layer. Now the question is, what happens if there's already data in an area? So if there's a lot of data, ideally try and match that, because it doesn't make sense that everyone's doing different things. So go through the list of imagery. They've probably used the same one of those imagery, right? You can't use private data sets anywhere. So try and match that rather than shift everyone's data, right? Because then that's going to take you a lot of time, right? So that's the convention generally. But yeah, great question from that. Anything, Vivek, that I should cover in terms of lines? Yeah, I can do buildings. So let's go into, maybe I'll do, oh, right. So I'll just show you some different things that might be there. Again, like, so that was different ways. So some examples, there could be rivers as well. So if you're mapping a river, a waterway, again, just search for what you want to map in the search. Generally, it's helpful. Otherwise, go to the Wikipedia, right? Or the wiki. Any area in Bangalore? Buildings, Yelanka? Cool. So we looked at ways. Clarity? Oh.
Yeah, so I think everyone can do this. On the right side, there's this layers background settings option. Okay. So by default, you'll select the first one, Bing, but you can switch to the second one, Esri. Generally higher quality and better resolution.
Yeah. So let me just show you what it would look like in to do something with what is called a polygon, right? So it's a polygon or area, which is just a closed way, right? So there are different tags that could come up. So for example, let's say I want to try and map. I'm looking for right this one. It's good. Okay, so how do I map a building? I'm looking at, I can click area over here. The idea is to try and map the footprint of the building, right? So not the top, because obviously that has a shift. Some of you will be familiar with that, but so the idea is I'm trying to map a certain building over here, right? So I don't think it is clear enough. You can see that. I map the building, double click to end your editing. Now I can show you some of the more helpful shortcuts, right? So you right click, there's an option called square, which just squares out the building area, right? So most of these buildings are going to be with right angles. So you can do that. If you're creating like ponds, which are perfectly circular, there's a circle option as well, right? So over there, those are things that just help you in your mapping. Now, what I've done is created an object. So if you see, I click on that item, it says area, and it's warning me here that this has no tag, no feature type, right? When I'm doing it remotely, I don't know what this building is. So I could just search and say building, right? If I just search for building and you search down, the tags is ultimately what gets added, right? So it just says building equals yes, right? Let's say I know it's something that's in my area. I know what it is. It's an apartment building, so or a house. So I search for apartment, right? You get different options over here. Just click the eye. It'll let you know more information. You say, okay, that's land use. That may not be what I want. What is this? This looks interesting. That is apartment building. It'll explain to you what that is a bit. If you want more detail, you click on that. You get the OpenStreetMap, the wiki over there. When you're satisfied, you can click on that and it changes the tags for you automatically, right? Building equal apartments. You can also do another way is search down here, and it lets you know some of the most popular ones, and you try and understand what those are as well, right? You might know that it's I don't know, some more examples. It could be a shop, it could be a factory, a mall. You search for factory, you have different options over there, whatever you know, right? So this is areas. You could have a physical object. There's also something that could be a land use, right? So you might tag an entire area as being residential or farmland. So you'll start seeing that, like, let's say residential area. If you search for that, you see the tag, the colors in yellow, that's for area, right? So area will cover an entire area. The ones that are in red are more for like physical objects, which are a building, those kind of things, right? And you've got different color coding as well. For natural things will be green. You'll get more used to that over time, right? Could be a retail area. So I search for retail area, that's something else, or anything like that, right? You might know of some building being a bank. So you click on that, right? Now, most of the time, the entire building may not be the object, right? So the entire building may not be a bank. It might just be in the building somewhere, right? So if you have an existing building, let's say imagine this is the building that I've already created. It just says building equals yes. Let's switch it to that. as you're walking down that road, you see that there is a bank. What you can do is just put a point over there, right? So I click on that. The convention is to just put it somewhere within the building. You can put in tags later on saying which floor it is on, all of that. But let's say it's a bank. So I search over here. I've got just bank. I can click on that, right? Now I can start adding it. The form sort of comes in here for the most popular tags. So it could be name, operator, different things, the address, opening hours. There are different ways to do that. It gets more complicated. It's asking you, is there an ATM? So you click yes. So anything you do on the top over here with forms starts adding tags, right? So again, remember, this is just the interface, the user interface. Ultimately, the only thing that gets stored is the object, the geography, and those properties, right? Any questions? Just otherwise, I'm talking a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So again, think of it like how useful would you find it, right? Like, so let's say, I don't know, if it's a very important building, like let's say Vivek was showing you Vidhan Saudha and all, you might want to get a lot more detail, right? But if it's something else, it's up to you, right? Ideally, think of how you would want to use it. And the point is, if you do it, someone else has to fix it, or you have to fix it later on, right? When there is good resolution data, get as accurate as you can. Again, it's a trade-off of quantity and quality, of course. So, yeah. Sorry. Sure. Can we take that a little later? But I'll just touch on the survey information just from a concept. So right now, if I'm looking over here, there are no buildings, right? So what that means is it makes it very difficult to do any additional information, right? So the starting point is, do I have the physical object mapped, right? If I just do building equals yes, and I cover an entire area, there are many options on how to enhance that data, right? But that's the starting point. So I've got the building. There are phone apps, so I can walk around and it just says, oh, what is this building? And I can click, right? And say this is residential, this is retail. But until that's on the map, it becomes really difficult, because while I'm walking around doing a survey, actually doing a survey, I can't be drawing things, right? So this aspect just adds the base layer, and the properties you can add from other information. The geometry, okay. So there are ways to actually customize and put your own layers in as well. So if you have drone imagery, you can actually put that as a background layer. You adjust the shift to whatever information you know, and then you can draw on top of that as well. So that's an option for sure. Okay. Okay, just okay. So building is the physical object. So you're actually talking about it. Land use. Let me just, how I would learn about this is just search for land use, right? So I search for land use over here. There are different land uses that we have. There's residential, educational, different kind of things like this, right? So you've got how to do, yeah. So the different sections over here. Again, at a very high level, there's high level detail, and then you keep going further down, right? So you might just say farmland. Someone might go there and say, no, this is not just farmland, it's a particular type of farmland, right? So that's the hierarchy that gets created, or the of details. Land use can be over an entire area. It might cover multiple buildings. It might be a particular building as well, right? Any question? Sorry. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So, so that there are two ways. Like, so if the entire build, let's say we're talking about a big complex, right? If the entire building is a hospital, mark the building as hospital. That part within like the layer, like means the few floors in a building. If it's few floors, then the suggestion is to put a point, right? Because there could be like a 10-story building, there might be some shops, whatever, right? So what we would do then with land use is try and summarize what that is. Is it predominantly residential and just shops on the first floor? That's okay. It's a 10-story residential building, but it has one shop as a point, right? Or it's entirely commercial, but with different things. It's hospital, offices, whatever. You can put those points. You want to add?
Yeah, so I think it's basically around how accurate you want to be, because you have residential neighborhoods in Bangalore, but there's no purely residential road in Bangalore. So it's how accurate you want to be. So I think currently Jayanagar and all are marked as land use residential, but obviously there are shops and all. So ideally you would want every single building plot with a separate land use, but that takes way too long to do. Yeah. Yeah. So mixed use building in a mixed use neighborhood. So just how do you digitize that data and basically make it machine readable? So it's up to human interpretation, I would say. Yeah, because you can't get like 100% accurate. Like India is very complicated. Like road can mean multiple things. It need not actually be where a car can go. So it's partially, so that's why the wiki is really useful. That's why people suggest new tags, new kinds of objects in the world which are not yet documented in OpenStreetMap. So that's why people get on the wiki, they suggest a new tag, people give feedback. So you might think Brigade Gateway is residential plus commercial plus hospital, but someone may have a different view. And in different countries, things work very differently as well. So it's good to have a community which decides these tagging schemes.
And the sorry, just to add to that, the other thing is it refines over time, right? So, like for example, I had mapped this entire area as residential, right? So I said, okay, this whole thing is residential. Slowly, you start seeing I've started mapping the more refined data. So I cut that out and say, no, actually, this area has, if it's like 4 shops in a row, I'll say, okay, it's retail. But if it's a lot of apartments and one small local shop, I'm not going to add that as retail, right? It's not retail, it's just a local shop. So, yeah. There was a question
here? It's to do with the fact that, sometimes when you take, for example, when you try to mine OSM data on QGIS and stuff, especially like in terms of green bodies and stuff, obviously like some of them will be categorized as parks and some of them is just natural cover because nobody really knows what it is. And sometimes there are overlaps. Like for example, I know like I think there was this golf course in Bangalore. When you mine the OSM data, it will show up very clearly as a lake when you do lakes. And then it will also show up as a park because obviously right now it's a golf, it's fully natural cover, right? So my question is, how do 2 land uses get assigned to the same thing even on?
How did 2? Yeah, go for it.
So I think partly it's the data is kind of wrong in some cases, but there's also land use versus land cover. So some people might map it assuming they're mapping land cover. Some people might map it assuming it's land use. So even I get it wrong sometimes. So I think I marked, there's like sand pits in a golf course and all, right? So I marked the sand pits as separate land use. So it might appear like that. But I think the fundamental problem is Bangalore is a residential land use, fundamentally, right? But there's obviously lots of commercial, scrub land, natural land. So again, it's how accurate, how deep down you want to map down the land use. No, so I think each city in India itself has a different way of defining what is what. Forests in India are defined by the government, not by what is actually on the ground. So the OSM tagging scheme is based on the OSM community's decision. So there may be some overlap, may not be overlap. India has mixed use neighborhoods. OSM does not have an official mixed use land use.
And so the convention for OSM is it should be physically verifiable. Okay, so that the thing is, if I've mapped something, you should be able to walk there and see that that's the reality, right? So it's not a plan. If it's not there, it's not there, right? So yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, yes. So like I said, there are multiple apps. We'll show you some of those also. The drawing part of it is obviously tough on a phone, right? So which is why ideally the drawing of a building or something like the actually geography is much better on a computer. And then you can walk there and just click. You can add properties. You can add what it is. All of that is very easy, very easily. It's we'll show you some of the apps also. In fact, I've done a lot of that on. So what I would do is I'd walk around, like draw the buildings, and then walk and actually add the properties. That's much easier. Yeah. 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 So the way I would do it is wiki first. So the Wikipedia is generally the best practice. Again, you can edit the Wikipedia to change the best practice, but again, it's up to the community, right? If you change that, someone else is going to change it back. So this is the starting point. If there's something that's very particular, there are groups, right? So there's a Bangalore group, India group. So you say, hey, I'm thinking of mapping this as whatever land use is this. What do you all think, right? And there's a consensus. There are discussions which are recorded, and then it's up to you. Then, yeah. Sorry, one.
Look at the data consumer side. So there are lots of applications using OpenStreetMap data already. So if you know how they interpret a certain tag, you probably want to follow that as well.
Sorry. Yeah, the question there?
On the consuming part, say if there is a road which is a one way, and I decide the one way is in one direction, but someone else decides it's in another direction. Yeah. So how is this conflict resolved, and how will the consuming application know this?
Sure. The consuming application is not going to know, right? Because they're not on the road. If anyone walks on that road and sees that you've mapped it wrong, they're going to change it, right? So the idea is all of us walking around are the ground truth, right? So whoever is actually there knows which direction that's going, and you can change it. If you've done it wrong, the next day someone can correct it, right? So over time, it condenses to the group norm, right? So that's
the same path is marked as road by drawing one more line, so it overlaps the existing road, right? In that case, how does it happen?
Like someone's drawn a road on top of a road.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, there are a lot of validation things that will be there, but yeah, as a consumer, you might have to remove that if it's duplicate and all. You want to add? Yeah. So if there are a lot of validations within the systems itself. So for example, let's say, yeah, when I'm adding on top of here, there might be like saying you've added a building that is overlapping a building. That doesn't make any sense, right? So if I try and upload it, it will warn me saying these are the errors. Do you actually want to go ahead, right? Yeah, yeah. So there are different concepts like that. Just to get a read of the room, is everyone familiar with the basics? Like you've just got an idea of how it works. All of these other questions will be very specific. So got an idea? Okay. What, again, I've just done random things here. So I'm not, sorry, I'll just complete this. I'm not going to actually upload this to the data set, but I'm just going to explain to you what you can do. Once you're done, ideally, you map a particular area. So don't do what I've done, which is map somewhere in Uttar Pradesh, then Bangalore. Just focus on one area. There's a save option over here. You click over there. You put in a change set. So a change set is just all of the changes I've made in one set, right? So this is my change set. I add in comments. Very recommended. Just say, how have I done this? Very simple one-line kind of thing. You have options to put your sources. So is it a survey? Have you actually walked? So anyone else looking at this will be able to validate, right? Like, are you actually someone there? Do you actually know what's going on, or are you assuming something, right? there's a helpful thing over here. You can click on, I would like someone to review my edits. If you click that, it just gets tagged. So I know Vivek is monitoring Bangalore. So if you click that, he will know that you need some help. But it's just helpful that like someone can come and review it. They can put comments on your chain set, right? And this errors. So any errors that you've made over here will show up. So it's telling me that I've created a line, but I've not said what that line is, right? You can click on that. It'll take you to that line and say, okay, how do I fix this? So now I click on the line, it's going to tell me what the error is. I can take some actions, either delete it or select what that actually is, right? So when you're saving the chain set, as soon as you click that, it's in the database, right? It's available. You can go and look at it on OpenStreetMap, right? Is that clear? We'll come to the specific questions, but Vivek, you may want to just, okay, I'll take that question. Good question. So relations is slightly more complicated, but I'll explain what it is. So it's used for different things. Let's say a bus route, right? It's more of a conceptual thing rather than a physical object, right? So it's many different roads that are connected. So you want to map the bus route from Bangalore airport to Jayanagar, right? I know that this is the bus route, whatever series bus, it's 300, whatever. I can map that as a relation. So it's a more of a conceptual thing, right? So that's one way to think of relation. The other is administrative boundaries. Again, it's not when you're walking on the road, it's not there, right? But a state boundary, a national boundary, all of those would come under relations, right? The other is if there are some limitations in terms of size. So let's say you're trying to map an entire, like a lake is still fine, but a really large sea or a dam area or something. If it goes beyond 2000 points, then it becomes a little less manageable by the data consumers, right? So in that case, you can add these things and say this is part of a relation. So it's more a technical thing, right? A practical thing. All of these belong to the relation of the lake, right? And the next use is if the buildings have holes in them. What I mean is that if it's like it's not a, right? So you can map that as the outer line and the inner line. So then that becomes a relation. So those are just the different ways that relations are used. You might see some of those around, but yeah, it's a bit of a complicated. Does that help? So I can take your question also. The relations in here. Okay, good. One thing which I can also show you, which is helpful, if you click the line, an existing line, go to the bottom, there's a view on OpenStreetMap. Okay. If you click that, you get information about the info, when it was created, who created it, which version it is. So it's version number 2. You can look at all the previous versions, what was changed, see all of that, right? So that's also helpful. You can see the chain set. So you get to understand, okay, this person did some changes. What were they doing? I can tell you these people, we know VLD people were paid by Facebook. So that's something that we know. But like that's just something that you learn over time, right? But that's also nice to know just in terms of who has changed this, when it was changed, all of that. So over to Vivek just to structure the next piece. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think now we'll get started with the actual mapping where you add data which you want to use in the next part. So I think you can just choose whichever area you want to map, any area you're familiar with. You can just go to the main OpenStreetMap page and you can search for it there. Or if you want, you could just zoom to it because you must be familiar with the area. So in my case, I'm going to do in Electronic City, I'll go. So you can just search. So you choose whichever area you want. If you want to do Electronic City, you could. No, this went to somewhere else. Okay, this one. Yeah, so does everyone have an area they want to map? Anyone does not have, we can suggest places. Does anyone want us to suggest a place to map? Yeah? No? You want? Yeah. Yeah, so what I do is I just zoom into a random place. So I've been doing this in Mysore rural area recently. I just scroll into a random place. I see it's blank. It's probably not blank in real life. There must be some farmland, at least some buildings here and there. So I just zoom in and do that. I probably read a news article the previous day and now I'm interested in the area. So next day I just go zoom in and look at it. So I think I'll do this area now. So I hope everyone has chosen an area they want to map. If you already see lots of data also, it's fine. You can add on data based on your local knowledge or something. But once you've selected an area, you can just select edit. And you should see this. If it asks you if you want to restore your changes or discard your changes, you should select discard. And hopefully you'll have a screen like this where you can see the satellite imagery. So today we'll be mostly mapping buildings and roads. If your area already has buildings and roads marked, you can mark land use now. So you can start zooming in and just looking. If you've chosen a rural area like mine, you'll see most things are not mapped, but they are clearly visible in the satellite imagery. So I think you can just get started, start mapping buildings and roads. Whatever you map now, we'll be importing into QGIS or felt later, and we'll be making a map with that. So choose what you want to map and can start. Yeah. And we'll probably be doing the mapping for like 10 to 15 minutes. So how much ever you can map, that'll be good. So there's a central OpenStreetMap server managed by the OpenStreetMap Foundation. So whatever data you are seeing is also coming from there. Whatever changes you make will also end up there. So Ola is using OpenStreetMap data. They'll have it hosted in their own internal servers. Whoever's using OpenStreetMap data would want to host it internally. So if you have an Android app like Organic Maps or Osman, you already have the data on your phone. But the central master database is maintained, I think, in the US. That's where they have the server. But you can replicate it. You can get a clone of it however you want.
Yeah, you can ask it.
It just takes the trace along.
You just make the point on the line.
Oh, okay.
Tell you what. So now you have to tell, you have to give a change set comment. Just basically describing what changes you have done. So you would say something like map in contour. Comment is basically describing for someone else what you have done. Yeah. Now, if you want someone to review that, you would think this. And if you don't want it, like, because you know what, and then you just say upload. Yeah, now you should mention your source. Like which you have used aerial imagery, you have used satellite imagery. So you mentioned that. There was an option for aerial imagery. Yeah. That's what you say upload. Yeah. So one more thing, if you go to OpenStreetMap, yeah. So and you go to whatever feature you want. tell you who has mapped it. So this map. Map 1 year ago by this gives the user and what they have mapped it as, and you can see their change settings. Basically, you uploaded and you saw 7 changes. So these are all what they mapped. They have uploaded like 1 year. So all of those changes are also documented on OSM. So any road or any building or any feature you see on Earth, you can see when it was mapped by who. So you can click on the path, the lake, the road. There's nothing mapped all the way. If it is gray, that means nothing is mapped. If it has a building also, then it means yeah, road also is mapped. So then it says residential. And if you hover on this, it will highlight which road it is. This road. And then you click on that. So if you go to that auditorium that is just map, and you click on that, you are doing the job. Like you are
How big is it?
Like regionally lives there and no other place can make such a seeing
yeah.
at the ground.
Yeah.
Each of them
We'll have to zoom in a bit. Or you can just search on that map. You'll be able to search the name of the Yes. Now if you click on query features,
Like I'm learning it, I can use it for
Can we continue later?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I hope everyone has got time to map something. Yeah, I'll do it. I'm doing it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I think everyone has mapped something. So now we're going to make a map with whatever you've mapped. So everyone can just search for overpass turbo in Google or whichever search engine you like. Basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to extract that data which we drew as a GeoJSON file. So go to overpass turbo and you can go to whichever area you mapped. So just for demonstration, I'm going to go to where we are now, but you should go to the area you mapped. Yeah, I hope everyone was able to get overpass turbo opened. So on the left side, you'll be seeing basically some code. So if you're an advanced user of overpass turbo, you would write code over here. But since this is just meant to be an introduction for the basics, there's a wizard option on top. So you can select the wizard option. And here is where you select what kind of data you want to extract. So for this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get all the buildings in the area. So you would type building equal to star. Building equal to star means get every building in B box. So what B box means, it's the area you have zoomed into on the map. So currently I've zoomed into this area around IIHS. So B box refers to that area. So once you type this and you've zoomed into some area, you can run build and run query. So this will basically convert whatever you've typed into the actual code, run that code and get the data. So I hope people have been able to run this and you're seeing the thing on the right side. It's highlighting whatever data was extracted from the query. So these are all the buildings. It's highlighted that. So if this looks good, this is what you want to extract. On the top left is an option called export. So you just select export and it has options for different kinds of formats. GeoJSON is the most common one in my experience. So I use that most often. So you can just select download and will download the GeoJSON file. So now for people, yeah. Yeah. So you basically open overpass turbo, zoom into the area you want to. Then there's a wizard. You can technically just type building. Yeah. So just type building, build and run query. Yeah. Okay. I normally type the code, so I didn't realize how easy it is. So you just type building in the wizard. It gets all the buildings. So you'll see it highlighted on the right side. If it looks good, you can export GeoJSON. You get your GeoJSON file. There are options to get PNG images and all. So if you just want a basic image, you could do that. But we're going to be using this data to make a map. So once you got the GeoJSON file, if you have GIS experience, you probably have a tool already configured to use it. So if you like QGIS, you can just open this in QGIS. Otherwise, if you don't have GIS experience, you can use this tool called Felt. You can just go to felt.com. This is for people who don't know about QGIS or ArcGIS. If you already know QGIS, ArcGIS, you probably prefer using that. No need to use Felt. But for people who don't know about QGIS and ArcGIS, you can open Felt, get started for free, and then you can log in. I'll use your Google. No? I don't know my password. No, I can create an account, right? Yeah, so you can just create an account here with your email. Can give any email. Can also be temporary email box if you prefer that. What is it? I'll fill. So I hope everyone got a GeoJSON. If you're using QGIS, you probably know how to import it already. If you're using Felt, hopefully you created an account and now you're seeing this. This is the tutorial, but for now we can just skip this and you can select the Felt icon on the top left and go to Home. And then select New Map on the top right. So now it will open a blank canvas basically, zoomed into whichever area your system location is set to. So now you don't need to scroll anywhere. On the top, there'll be an upload icon, which says upload anything. So you just select that, and then you select the file, export.geojson, and it gives two options, elements or data layer. In this case, we're not going to process the data, we're just going to display it as it is. So we use a data layer. Elements is when you want to actually edit. So suppose we have buildings, you want to add additional data, we would use elements. But in this case, we're using OpenStreetMap data directly, so we don't need to edit it. So just do data layer and create. It'll start uploading the data, and then it'll process it. Yeah, and then there'll be a zoom to fit option. It'll basically take you to where the data is. So here you can see all the buildings which we exported. So on Felt, you can basically style the data how you want. So there'll be a triple dot option where you can do various actions. So you can export the data again if you want. You can, if you have multiple layers of data, if you import multiple GeoJSON files, you can basically arrange and rearrange them. But in this case, what we want is we can just select that layer which we have, export. We can rename it so it's more clear, building. And then what we can do is we can basically style it in different ways. So Felt provides an option of categories. So here you can color based on a category. So in OSM, buildings have different tags that you may have seen, and building levels are there. In this case, I'll do building levels. So most buildings don't have building levels tag. So you may not see much. Yeah, so I'll try building this, the building. Yeah, so on this road, you can see a few different types of buildings. And there's a fill option. You can just basically change how to color, what it looks like. So you can see this is yes, is that apartments are blue, residential is green, college is yellow, that's where we are. And you can style your data. So like this, if you want, you can get the highway data as well. So again, you can go back to Overpass Turbo. And again, go to Wizard. And let's do highway. And you can get the data for the highways. So this is for a different area. I'll just export it again and use this. Where is this? Oh, this one. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just uploading the highways now. This is in a different area, so I can zoom in there as well. But like this, you can add different layers of data. So right now we're using just OpenStreetMap data, but if you happen to have a shapefile or GeoJSON file from some other source, you could upload it here as well. So this is how you can use OpenStreetMap data along with other data sources. So I'll just zoom into this one. These are some roads in this place. So again, here you can do a similar thing. You can select, you can change the style, color based on different things. Everything is a trunk road here, so but yeah, this is basically how you do it. Overpass turbo, export the data. Basically, you zoom into the area you mapped, export the buildings, highways, whatever other features you want. They might be parks or playgrounds or something. If you map them or if they're already there, you can export them. Take the GeoJSON, import it in Felt. So anyone has any questions or anything? Yeah. The overpass wizard. Yeah, so it's basically OpenStreetMap Foundation project. They manage it, they host infrastructure. There are similar things. It's an open source thing, so you can run it on your own infrastructure. This has a limited, so everyone using it now might crash it technically, but we are all in the same IP now. So any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, so I think first you should get familiar with the tagging scheme. If you know what kind of feature you want, suppose it's commercial land use, you first figure out what is the tag in OSM. Then you basically just type that tag here. So you want land use residential. You just type that and you get everything from having that tag. Just getting all the land use. There is one more tool, OSM GPT, where you can just type normal language stuff. Oh, how would I go to OSM GPT?
Now you can.
Yeah, so you can go here, and if you prefer just typing something and hoping the AI gets it right, you could do this. But of course, it's the AI getting it right, which is the tough part. Can get all restaurants, so you do that. Sorry? Yeah, no, it's a overpass QL. Yeah, overpass QL. So yeah, the entire thing is documented here. It's very complicated. It's very obtuse, which is why OSM GPT, lots of people actually prefer. But if you're doing basic things, the wizard is good enough. Like you just want land use in a city, just buildings, you can do this. If you want something specific, like commercial land use within 500 meters of a public transport station, then OSM GPT might work better. Yeah, you can filter by time. So buildings added to OSM between 2023 November and December. Yeah. Any other question about overpass turbo or felt? Yeah. Yeah, so you can basically do land use, whatever thing, given or Boolean operator and type or highway or building. This will get all of them. So if you see on the left also, the code it's taken is more. So it's getting all the land use, getting all the highway, all the building. So technically, if you know the tagging scheme, you don't have to use the wizard. You can just copy paste this. You know you want a different tag, you just type the tag here. If it's not building, it's yeah, admin level. Whichever tag you can do it. Yeah, and one more thing I like to do is, if I've seen that feature mapped in OSM somewhere, I go there, see how the tagging is done, and basically follow that. Yeah, this one. I'm not sure if this one works, but it's open source, so you could host this if you want. And of course, you can train models on this. It's just input text, output text. This is in Nepal, I think, Kathmandu. Yeah, so one more thing is, in the default OpenStreetMap website, everything is in English. But in OpenStreetMap.in, you can get different languages. I think this uses your system language. Ruel system language is English, so just showing English. But if your system language is different, it'll adapt to that. Basically, how Google Maps does it, based on your system language, they display the same thing. Anything else overpass top of felt? Otherwise, I'll hand it over to Ruel for taking us through QGIS. So, no, okay. So people who are not familiar with GIS, QGIS, you can just maybe understand a bit, but otherwise you can use felt for making the map.
Cool. So yeah, just a show of hands, anyone who's used QGIS, knows QGIS, has QGIS on their laptops also maybe. Yeah. Okay. So a reasonable amount of you. For the others, maybe if you're just interested, it's a very simple open source way to use GIS data. Let me just show you a fresh project and then just see how it works. So there are few things. I think I might have some of these might be plugins, so I'm not sure if you'll need that. So if you have QGIS, there's a quick map services. Anyone who's used it, is that default? Or it's not default, right? You have to install it. So you have to install it as a plugin. There is, you get different, I mean, you can use whatever layer you want. What I'm going to show you is just how do you get OpenStreetMap data very easily in OSM, sorry, in QGIS. Let me take you to an example. Right, so there is a plugin which you have to also install called Quick OSM. So I think it's, for those of you more familiar with this, you'll have to tell me. But yeah, you can search for the plugin. It's called Quick OSM. I don't know if it comes. Sometimes it comes up default. If anyone has that, that's just the way to get through that. What you can do then is that they've just updated the format as well, but very similar to what Vivek was showing. You've got a key and a value, right? So that's the tagging system. What you can do is do it based on a file that you've uploaded or the canvas area. So just for a start, I'm going to do canvas area. If you leave that blank, you're getting all of the values of highway. Otherwise, you can specify something particular. It can, I mean, it recommends here also what values you have, whether it's primary, secondary, it's the same thing. You've got an like an area, so area where you want to download. So I can say in a particular village, a town, it'll search using OSM and find that. So generally, you can't download all the roads in Bangalore, right? Using this, because you might hit the limit. So smaller area, you can do around an area. So that's a buffer area around that. The canvas extent is how far I've zoomed in. Layer extent is if you have any other layers over there. So I'll show you that as well. So let me just do canvas extent. You can build a query, show the query, that's fine. There's an advanced option here. So advanced option is if you already know what exactly you want. So I only want the ways, and the relation. So I only want the long, I don't want any points. So anything that's mapped as a highway with a point, I'll remove that. So I say, okay, I don't want the nodes. I don't want the points. I can run the query. There's a timeout feature as well. So in case your query is a lot bigger, it's defaulted to 25 seconds. And then you can run the query, right? So as soon as you run the query, it downloads as a layer within QGIS as well straight away. So we've got all of that, all of the roads, but it also has all the data. So if I'll just show you what that looks like. Now, because of the way that the OSM data is structured, it's not a structured database. So a lot of it might be blank. So you need to know the main columns, right? So highway is the main one over here. You can see all of the options that I have. I have highways under construction. I've got highway equals footway, which means all the footpaths, primary, secondary, all of that. And any other information, any other key value pairs is recorded over here, right? So some people might have mapped it based on the access, right? So some roads are private. So that's just a concept of access, private, public, all of that. By default, there might be some. We talked about wheelchairs. So some roads might be mapped as, is this footway have an option for wheelchairs? No. You might see horse over there. I don't know who's tagged horse access in Bangalore. But yeah. Surface. So one thing that Vivek came about, talked about surface. So you understand which roads are concrete, which ones are asphalt, which is different surfaces there, some names as well, right? Once you've got that information in, it's straight away here. For those of you familiar, you can do whatever else you want with this, right? So you can export it, you can edit it, you can put in some filtering, all of that. So that's all up to you. I'll just show you an example. Of something that I've been working on. Let's just see if it's there. Discard. Just to show you the power of what you can do, right? Like this is just one area, and I'm trying to create a short video for people who don't know what OSM is about, to say, okay, what is the power, right? So can I, if I want to find a house using OSM, right? I've just picked one area. I look at all of my residential, those are all of my buildings, right? Let me cut out some of these so it's a little better, right? I've got an area. I have all of my buildings. I want to find a house that has yellow lights on my street, right? So I've downloaded the highway. And for those of you more familiar, I can just filter out buildings that are close to streets with yellow lights on it, right? I'm just showing it to you visually, but the fact is the data is here. So you can use this algorithmically and actually filter out which buildings are there, right? I could say, hey, I've got religious construction sites, buffer around this because I don't want to live near a construction site because it's too noisy, right? I don't want to live near schools because those are too noisy. So I've got education things, or even religious areas, right? I've got all my trees on all of the roads. So I want a road with a minimum of 10 trees on it. Filter out the roads, get my buildings over there, right? Got in my residential, I've put in only the buildings that are above 7 stories, or maybe I introduce a few more, right? All the houses above 4 stories high, right? Immediately using this, I can filter down to one particular house and say, that's the house I want to live in, right? May not be available, but it's just the power of trying to find a house in a completely different way, right? I could have, this area has, let me see what that is. I know that there are telecom poles. I know who's running them. Is it Jio or Airtel, right? So I can find, I want a road where there is already Jio fiber net on it. I can see where the telecom poles are. I want to be closest to the pole because I get fastest internet. you can see that, right? So yeah, any of these queries, it's the same concept, just a different way of consuming it. Same question as in how do I find the tags? Whatever you're interested in, search in the wiki, and then you have this combination pair, right? And then you can start filtering down on that completely. Any questions on this? I think many of you might be familiar with that already. Good, cool. So we're going to give how much time do we have? We done? Yeah. So just in terms of how to use, the hope is that you use OSM. You can use the data as well, create maps, share it with all of us so that we get an idea of of what your experience as well. Yeah. Vivek, anything you want to add? You're good? Then back to you.
Awesome. Do you have something to add?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think in the beginning I asked this question. I hope everyone has done all these things now and you're familiar with OSM and you know how to add data and use it. So I hope you've learned something today. And if you want to explore OSM more or you want to connect with the local community, we have two groups. One is OSM Bengaluru, one is OSM India. I'm guessing a lot of you are from Bengaluru, so you probably want to join the OSM Bengaluru group. This is the QR code for Telegram group, but we have a matrix room as well. You can join one of these. And so we've been having mapping parties once a month where we meet in different parts of the city, basically around Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Active OSM contributors get together and we start mapping things. Last time we were just mapping POIs. The time before that, we were mapping streetlights in Indranagar. So if you have something of interest which you want to map, maybe building heights in your neighborhood or something, you can also suggest a location and a time where the OSM Bengaluru community can meet and we can have a mapping party. And if you're not on Telegram or Matrix for some reason, there's an OSM India community forum where you can access with your OSM account directly. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you. Thank you to Let's Talk Spatial and thank you to Amrut for giving us this space and this opportunity to teach OSM to all of you.
Thank you so much, guys. This has been great. I mean, the workshop, I think, has definitely triggered my interest into getting back on the mapping part of it, maybe have a few contributions over the weekend. But before we end, I would like to just take up 5 more minutes of your time. I just want to talk about the conference that's coming up next month. Let me just... So it's called as the India Geoscience and Remote Sensing Symposium, and Let's Talk Spatial is a technology partner with the conference group. This is headed with the IEEE GRSS Bangalore section. And the idea behind this is that the conference is the first in-person conference for this group that's happening. The last two were online. So there's a massive, let's say, an initiative that's been taken up, and we have major sponsors that are also part of the conference themselves. We have the big players coming in for the conference itself, and industry folks here as well would be really interested in sort of being part of the conference. You can register online. Registrations are open for everybody. You don't have to be part. If you just want to learn about GIS, like you just came in today, you can network with a very, very large group of people coming in for the conference next month. We're also partly organizing with them, the Let's Talk Spatial group. So we can also reach out to us if you have any sort of doubts about the conference and you don't want to reach out to them specifically. But more importantly, we have a lot of programs that are happening. So if you go to the website, you can actually check this out. But I would like to sort of reach out to the tutorial session. We have major tutorials coming in from obviously some of the front faces of GIS and remote sensing in India, as well as a lot of international professors coming in for very specific niche remote sensing concepts of, let's say, SAR and polarimetry sort of remote sensing that some of you may have heard about, but it's a very, very important part of remote sensing and observation. And this list is will be including a lot more folks in the future as well, and not only just for the tutorials part, but also within the keynote and plenary speakers, where we have the first keynote being presented by Dr. Harini Nagendra from Azim Premji, and also a few more from Satshore, and also from the UK, the University of Stirling. So, and a few more folks will be added later on as well. So if you'd like to hear about the overarching concept of remote sensing, GIS, or geoscience in general that's happening around the world, with a big connect between industry and academia, a lot of paper submissions have come through. We have received over 300 papers for this conference in person from India, a good chunk of them from other countries as well. A lot of exhibition booths are there for industry folks to set up as well. So you'll have massive exhibition area. This is being held at the IIIT Bangalore, International Institute of Information Technology towards Electronic City. So it's a 3-day conference from December 10th to 13th, and there's an exhibition area where a lot of the folks would come up, put up stalls. You can network with them, find out about what's happening in these areas specifically. So if you do like to register, the registration page is open. It's open until the day of the conference. You can register on the day of the conference as well. So do take a look. I mean, I think it's an excellent opportunity for not even just GIS folks, anybody in general who would like to know a lot about these things, to just join and find out what's happening. It's like a community event, let's say, but at a larger scale than what we have seen before. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about the conference. Closing this, I just wanted to say that thanks everybody to come on a Saturday morning. We will be doing a lot more of these events, let's say every month, as if possible. I'll just put in the website. Right. Yeah, so you can go to our website. You have all the information that's being put up there. If you like to communicate with us directly, I mean, other than LinkedIn and Twitter, we have a Slack group towards the bottom. So you can join us on Slack. And we have different channels there for discussions and technical stuff that you like to ask us. Most of us are online there, and we can respond to your queries and questions and anything that you'd like to share with the community as well. So yeah, so I think with that, I'd like to thank the organizers, Let's Talk Spatial folks, to come up here as well. I'd like to thank IHS and my lab, the Geospatial lab, for giving me the opportunity to do this outside of my regular responsibilities. But yes, I have a few of my colleagues, Nirvan and Rohit, also who have offered to come and learn. Although I might have forced them to come, but it's out of their interest as well. But that's great. Huge thanks to the IT and administrative staff to set this up. There's a lot of people involved to do an event like this, even though it might seem like a 2 or 3 hour event. It's a lot of things that happen in the back. Like huge heartfelt thanks to all of them. But yeah, I think we are done for today. We have chai, biscuits served back. But before that, we'd like to take a quick photo in the cafeteria near the stairs. So if all of you could just arrange yourselves in orderly fashion, we can get that done. And then you're free to network here until 2-ish. It's open until 2. So ideally, we can all leave by 2. But we have another hour at least. So yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks OSM Bangalore. Thanks guys for coming. It's been great. Thank you.